must go along till the Lord comes and calls me away. Where the morning is bright and the Lamb is the light, and the night is as fair as the day. There will be peace in the valley for me someday. There will be peace in the valley for me, oh Lord, I pray. There'll be no sadness, no sorrow, no trouble I see. There will be peace in the valley for me. Well, the flowers will be blooming and the grass will be green and the skies will be clear and serene. Where the sun ever beams in this valley of dreams, and no clouds there will ever be seen. There will be peace in the valley for me someday. There will be peace in the valley for me, oh Lord, I pray. There'll be no sadness, no sorrow, no trouble I see. There will be peace in the valley for me. Well, the bear will be gentle and the wolf will be tame, and the lion shall lay down by the lamb, and the beast from the wild shall be led by a child, and I'll be changed from this creature that I am. There will be peace in the valley for me someday. There will be peace in the valley for me, oh Lord, I pray. There'll be no sadness, no sorrow, no trouble I see. Peace in the valley for me someday.
Jeffrey Don Bradshaw, son of Lake Norman Tuffy and Sally Smith Bradshaw, was born on February the 22nd, 1958 in Cabot, Missouri. He passed away April 24th, 2025 in Springfield, Missouri at the age of 67. Jeff, like his dad, Tuffy, worked in auto body repair for several years. Jeff developed lots of relationships and friendships while working on so many people's vehicles in Wright, Douglas, and Texas County. Jeff enjoyed watching old Western movies and summer barbecues and pool times. He loved to go to Bull Shoals Lake and liked working in the yard. He absolutely adored his loving wife, Leonie, and his beautiful family that they built together. Jeff and his four sisters shared a very, very special bond. Their devotion to Jeff during his illness was a perfect example of sibling love. Besides his parents, Jeff was preceded in death by his grandparents, Henry and Nettie Bradshaw, Don Smith, and Thelma Hurt, and several uncles and aunts. Jeff is survived by his loving wife of nearly 49 years, Leonie Bradshaw of Macomb, Missouri. 4 children, Joe Bradshaw, wife Suzanne, Nixon, Missouri. Chris Bradshaw of Norwood, Missouri. R. Ray Bradshaw of Norwood, Missouri, and Heidi Kelly and husband John of Norwood, Missouri. 12 grandchildren, Sophie Bradshaw, Catherine Bradshaw, Leah Bradshaw, Charlie Vance, and husband Phil, Andrew Bradshaw, Dre Bradshaw, Jace Bradshaw, Audrey Bradshaw, Reagan Kelly, Cameron Kelly, Carter Kelly, and Bryant Kelly. 2 great-grandchildren, Laura Vance and Emma. 4 sisters, Norma Brewer and husband Dan, Colorado Springs, Colorado. Connie Duggar and husband Gary of Norwood, Missouri. Daleen Stowe and husband Wes of Springfield, Missouri. And Joni Flanagan of Diggins, Missouri. And many nieces, nephews, relatives, and dear friends who will miss him greatly. He was a good man. Me and him, we had lots of good times together. I'll greatly miss him. He helped me work on lots of things and probably made me who I am today. The truth was to be known. He meant a lot to me. Him and Aunt Honey both, they were really, really good. Man, couldn't ask for anything better. It's a great loss to our family. He was always had something funny to say. When I was in college, he painted this old truck for me one time, and I had it for a long time. And one night I got off work and had too many Dr. Peppers to drink and passed out and blew the engine. And probably woke the whole town of Norwood up. And I wasn't really upset that I blew up the engine, but I was more worried that he was going to be mad at me. And I carried that guilt with me forever. I felt like I was carrying a Sherman tank on my shoulders. One day I just couldn't take it. I was working second shift and I got up early, went to the shop and was just going to get it over with. And I'll never forget when I walked in the shop, he's like, "Well, there's Jeremy." And we were sitting there talking and he wanted to know if I got my truck fixed, and I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Well, you know, those things happen." And I always thought that he'd be mad at me, but that's just how he was. He was just a good man. So that's all I got to say.
I read a note my grandma wrote back in 1923. Grandpa kept it in his coat and he showed it once to me. He said, "Boy, you might not understand, but a long, long time ago, Grandma's daddy didn't like me none, but I loved your grandma so. We had this crazy plan to meet and run away I don't know how long I'll be, but I'm not gonna let you down. Darling, wait and see. And between now and then, till I see you again, I'll be loving you. Love me. I read those words just hours before my grandma passed away. In the doorway of a church where me and Grandpa stopped to pray. I know I'd never seen him cry in all my 15 years. But as he said these words to her, his eyes filled up with tears. If you get there before I do, don't give up on me. I'll meet you when my chores are through. I don't know how long I'll be, but I'm not gonna let you down. Darling, wait and see. And between now and then, till I see you again, I'll be loving you. Love me. Between now and then, till I see you again, I'll be loving you. Love me.
I can tell some of y'all were probably hoping for a different John Kelly. You got Jeremy Dover and John Kelly doing funerals now, so anything's possible, kids, I guess, right? In case nobody knows who I am, I'm the guy who married the girl triplet. On behalf of the family, before I get started, I just want to say a heartfelt thank you for your kindness and love. Over the last several days, it was only hours from Jeff's death that food started showing up at my house and at my in-laws' house. All the food, texts, calls, and stop-ins have just been incredible. I know it may seem a bit odd to have a son-in-law do a eulogy, but about 3 weeks ago, I just had this overwhelming feeling that I was going to speak at Jeff's funeral. So last Friday, I had a private conversation with Leonie out by the wood pile, and I asked her if she had landed on a speaker yet. And she quickly replied, "No, I haven't." When I looked at her and I said, "If you and your kids approve, I'll do it, Leonie." And she started crying, and she said, "I think Jeff would love that." I'm really not sure what words can be said about a guy who used them so sparingly. But we're going to give it a try. I wrote most of this down because I don't want to get off script at all. The first time I met Jeff, I was a 17-year-old kid who was pretty enamored with his daughter. So once we kind of became official, I went down one weekend to see Heidi and meet the family. The first thing I remember about that trip is I completely missed their driveway. So I had to go on down to Junior Hicks' driveway, turn around and come back and get parked. And I remember walking down their sloped, rockaway sidewalk and I entered the front door with Heidi, and diagonal through the living room at the kitchen table, there he was. There was Jeff sitting. And of course, he had that old school hair and the mustache and just the whole aura about him, you know. And he was, I'm just going to be honest, he was about halfway through a cigarette, and he was just staring at me through the smoke, you know. And I thought, man, I thought Don Kelly was intimidating this guy. So we made our introductions, and I don't even think he said hello. I don't, I mean. And then Heidi quickly escorted me upstairs. And I remember when I was walking with my wife up the stairs thinking to myself, my gosh, I think Heidi's dad plays the bass for Alabama. I mean, he looks just like those guys, you know? So after Heidi and I started getting a little bit serious, I slowly began having conversations with Jeff in little increments. The problem me and Jeff had was we had zero in common. I drove a Chevy. I loved sports and politics. Jeff hated every bit of those things. Side note, last night I was looking at the flowers, and I see my buddy, our Congressman Jason Smith, sent a flower arrangement, and I just chuckled. Man, Jeff would have never dreamed in a million years a United States Congressman would have sent him flowers. But he sure did. So, you know, I got to a point where, like, what are me and Jeff going to talk about? And enter John Wayne. This may have forever sealed the approval from Jeff when he found out I really, really like John Wayne movies. So from that point on, our shared interest was, of course, Heidi and the greatest actor of all time, the Duke. One of these days, I don't really know when, but I'm gonna have a John Wayne marathon, and I'm gonna watch Rio Lobo, Rio Bravo, El Dorado, Rooster Cogburn, Comancheros, Cahill. I'm not done yet. Big Jake, Sons of Katie Elder, War Wagon, True Grit, Chisholm, McClintock, Searchers, and of course, North to Alaska. Jeff loved all westerns, not just John Wayne. Outlaw Josie Wales, oh my. He loved that movie. And of course, all those old spaghetti westerns. Now, I will say he kind of lost me with some of them. Those were so bad. Another big movie in the family conversation is Paint Your Wagon. My wife, Heidi, she gets so nauseous when that movie even gets mentioned because of all the times she was forced to watch it as a kid. She always says, John, it's a Western musical. It's just horrible. I'm not for sure, but this could have been Jeff's favorite movie. It was an event when they all found out I had never seen it. Jeff told me we were going to solve this problem quick. Once we got married and in the family, I quickly figured out one way I could spend time with Jeff was cutting wood. A lot of good times spent cutting wood with Jeff and my brother-in-law. Summer barbecues, 104.7 classic rock. Yard work, pool time, cut off jeans. Way too short cut off jeans. Whoa. The TV show MASH. Wood heat and bologna sandwich. These are all memory triggers for me, and I'm sure the rest of the family. Another thing that I will never regret doing is going down to drink coffee with Jeff and Leonie after my morning hunts during deer season. It can be the simplest things in life that turn into core memories. And all those November mornings are so much appreciated. Jeff never once gave me his opinion on how I should raise my kids. I guarantee he didn't agree with everything, but he never once meddled in my affairs. You see, I come from a very long line of advice givers. So this was brand new territory for me. He knew I would make mistakes, but he just let me figure it out. I always appreciate that. Some of the most recent stories that made me laugh happened at the hospital, so I'm going to share a few. The last couple months were just pretty rough. With several hospital stays. One of those times, Jeff was admitted to a room, and it was getting late in the evening, and he was scheduled to have surgery the next morning. Leonie had to make sure that get him some food because he's diabetic and had surgery the next day, so we had a timeline. Leonie was just extremely stressed out about the situation. She was running around trying to figure out what we're going to get Jeff to eat, so Heidi and I run to the truck and run down to KFC. They're on, I don't even know what street that is, National Navy, Sunshine, on that. So we went to the drive-thru and rushed back to the hospital, and we walked in the room and we put a box of chicken strips on Jeff's bed. Well, the first thing Lonnie noticed was that those chicken strips had breading on them. And with his esophagus issues, it just kind of made it a little bit difficult. So she kind of freaked out a little bit. She was running all over the room looking for a knife to cut the breading off. And I looked over at Jeff, and I could tell he was just getting a tad bit annoyed. He looked down at that box of strips on his lap, and he said, "I will fix this problem," and just reached down and grabbed one and took a big old bite. Breading and all. Another story that keeps growing with every time it's told is I don't know exactly what day it was, but we were in the room and the room was full of family, and I decided to go over and sit by Jeff, and he was kind of in and out of consciousness. I asked him if he knew who was talking to him, and his first response was Duggar, meaning Gary. And he then said, "Boy, them Duggars, they like to run the floor." After I stopped laughing, I said, "Okay, Jeff, let's give it another shot. Who do you think this is talking to you?" And very plainly, and with plenty of volume, he said, "John Duggar." while giving me a side look and a half-crooked grin. Of course, the room just erupted in laughter, and now I'm affectionately called by the family John Duggar. And when they found out I was going to speak at the funeral, it quickly upgraded to the Reverend John Duggar. There will be no offering at this service. Now, before I tell this next story, I need to let y'all know that I received permission, okay? So it seemed to be all hands on deck the last couple days. This horrible disease affected Jeff's mental and physical condition. So last Monday, Jeff experienced a huge burst of energy, and he was just hard to contain. He wanted out of bed, out of the room, and sometimes even out of his clothes. Very uncooperative. So he was kind of walking around the room a little bit, and he noticed the door to the hallway. And he slowly started trying to sneak his way over there. I wasn't there, everybody was playing defense for most of the day, okay? And my brother-in-law, Chris, just stepped in front of the door and said, "Dad, I'm not moving." Jeff, undeterred, walked up to his much bigger and much stronger son, Chris, and he threw a short jab punch at his belly and said, I quote, "Get out of my way, fat boy." I found later Chris's own son-in-law calls him Papa Shrek. Now, I realize this story may seem a bit distasteful, but for our family, this story has already turned into folklore. We have laughed so hard about it, and it's been told a bunch of times. I always knew Jeff and his sisters were pretty tight. I'm going to try not to look at you sisters right now. But not until Jeff became ill did I really understand this relationship. Connie, Daleen, Norma, and Jody loved their brother. Our family couldn't have made it without them the last 6 years. All the trips to chemo, Barnes and St. Louis, the doctor's appointments, and just what felt like hundreds of trips to Springfield. All of them contributed tremendously, but I want to give a special shout out to Aunt Connie. She put her life on hold for Jeff. Joe, Chris, R.A., and Heidi were just in the thick of work, kids, sports, and everything that life throws at you when you're at our age. And Connie stepped up like no one I've never seen. Sometimes multiple trips to Springfield the same week. Daleen would meet them at the hospital and make sure everyone had food. Boy, she brought a lot of food. Jody would sometimes drive from Diggins to Norwood, then back to Springfield. Anytime Jeff had surgery, Norma would get on a plane or drive all night to be with her brother. What a great story of sibling love till the end. Their devotion to Jeff has just been incredible. Last week at the hospital, I was talking to Connie and Norma about this and how much of a testimony it was to me. Connie looked at me right in the eyeballs and said, "Daddy told me to keep the family together, and that's what I'm doing." I want to say to you girls, Tubby and Sally would be proud of their adult children for loving each other and sticking together as a unit, even when things were very dark. Now I'm going to talk about my mother-in-law. Working full-time, raising 4 kids, 3 of those at the same time. And let's just say it, she raised Jeff too. Plus she helped take care of Granny Norris for so many years. She was fully committed to Jeff and the family, and they raised 4 kids who are contributing responsibly to society. Joe, Chris, R.A., they all have the same skill set as Jeff did when it comes to motors and body work, being able to fix almost anything. And they can troubleshoot their way through any problem. The natural ingenuity that has been passed down through generations. Their sister Heidi is pretty darn handy too. I always tell people, why would I learn how to do that? That's why I married a Bradshaw. One time, Heidi bought a used couch. She wanted to put it upstairs in the bonus room above our garage. And she said, "John, we need to get it up there." So I kind of studied the geometry of the situation, and I said, "It's not going to fit in the stairwell, dear." Well, I came home the next day, and there that couch was upstairs. She took the couch apart, upholstery and all, carried it upstairs in 2 or 3 sections. Then she That is what I call Bradshaw crazy. The point of this story is that Jeff and Leonie did a great job raising some kids who all know how to hustle and just get stuff done. After Jeff became ill, Lonnie seen no way around early retirement, as it became clear that he would need full-time care. She was there every step of the way with Jeff, keeping records of all his medicine. I think the family can agree that notebook was something else. Blood sugars, blood pressure, feeding him, scheduling doctor's appointments, dealing with every new diagnosis. Lung cancer, heart attacks, esophagus cancer, esophagus stretches, so many surgeries. Loving Jeff till his very last breath, not leaving his side. You kept Jeff alive way longer than the doctors imagined, Lonnie. My siblings and I used to sing a song, "Will There Be Any Stars in My Current?" Lonnie, there's going to be a lot of stars in the current. Thank you for loving us and for all the sacrifices you made. I'm sure glad you and Jeff found each other. I believe our family grew closer together in those last days, celebrating and mourning Jeff at the same time. We went from deep sorrow to hysterical laughing in that hospital room. How could you not laugh with Gary and Jeremy in the room, right? Telling stories. When Jeff passed, I will never forget the scene of my wife standing over her dad, holding his hand, talking to him, telling him goodbye. His sister's wife falling in each other's arms, just exhausted from grief. I'll always remember Jeff's brother-in-law, Gary, having Cameron and Brandy help him to the bed to say goodbye. Years of memories being condensed in that very moment. Jeff's last trip to Springfield was on my birthday, April 12th. I should say that we didn't make it out of his driveway and he was telling his daughter Heidi how to drive. We spent 12 hours in the ER waiting to get admitted. Not really the way I had the day planned. But then it just occurred to me, this is what family is supposed to do. Step up when you need it. Birthday or not. Jeff was a very private man, and that included his thoughts on faith in God. I only remember talking to him a couple times about God over the last 25 years. I do know that when Jeff became sick, that he had Lonnie read the Bible to him for comfort, and they held hands often to pray. This last hospital stay just felt different because the cancer had spread to his spine, and you could just see the sickness in his eyes. April the 18th was Good Friday, and we drove to the hospital, and I remember my wife saying, "I'm going to talk to Dad tonight about having peace." Jeff was very sleepy and kept dozing off the entire afternoon. We were trying to keep him awake to eat and drink, and we weren't having much luck. A nurse told us we could try to give him a popsicle, so we ordered one out. Man, and he just became alert and just went to town on that thing. Leonie and Reagan decided to run down to the cafeteria to grab something to eat, and so it was just myself, R.A., and his kids, and Heidi in the room. I decided to ask Jeff if he'd been doing any praying. He quickly responded, "Yes, lots of it." I then followed up with, "Has God given you any peace in those prayers, Jeff?" And he said, and this is his quote, "I'm trying, but not doing so good sometimes." At that moment, my wife got up from her chair and went and sat on her dad's bed. She said, "Dad, you know that God can help bring you peace." She quoted a verse about God being faithful and just to forgive us of our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. He said, "Heidi, I believe in God." She said, "Dad, do you believe you're a sinner?" Jeff responded emphatically, "Yes." Heidi then said, "Dad, when Jesus saves us, He saves us from our past, present, and future sins. All of them forgiven." Jeff said, "Heidi, I have asked Him to forgive me." She then said, "Do you believe He forgave you?" Jeff responded, "I sure hope so." Heidi retorted back quickly, "Dad, you don't have to hope. You can know without a doubt." She said, "Dad, I know you don't want to leave us. But we will be okay if we know that we can be together again." At this time, my father-in-law Jeff started crying. Also in this very moment, the hospital halls were filled with the most beautiful singing you've ever heard. It come out of nowhere. I looked through the crack of the door, and just outside our room was a youth Mennonite a cappella choir. They were singing old hymns for hospital patients on Good Friday. The music was just coming straight into our room while we were talking to Jeff about God's peace. The song they were singing, "It Is Well With My Soul." While we were talking to Jeff about God's peace, the first verse of this song rang out. "When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll. Whatever my lot thou hast taught me to say, it is well with my soul." God's timing is just incredible. Jeff piped up and said, "You guys are better at this than me." I then told Jeff, I said, "It's not our performance that gets us to heaven. For what we do, it's purely based on what He did for us." Ari chimed in and said, "Dad's salvation is the most simple thing ever. It's people and religion that make it hard." We told him the ground is level at the foot of the cross and all men are equal in God's sight. She asked her dad if he wanted to pray, and he said, "I already have, Heidi, and I believe what you're saying."
Amen.
I told Jeff that his family loved him so much that it can't even come close to how much God loves him. I also mentioned that life is short and we're all on death's road. And he had tears running down both sides, and he said, "It's so much shorter than I thought it would be." Heidi said, "Dad, do you have any more questions?" But he just shook his head no. At that moment, we stopped talking, and we just listened to the choir continue to sing for several more minutes, just worshiping and experiencing God's presence. I felt like we all kind of knew that the end was probably near. My father-in-law was crying so hard, something I had never seen. This may have been the most spiritual experience that I've ever had. On the drive home, my wife was just crying, thanking God for the opportunity to talk with her dad. We don't know exactly when Jeff got right, made things right with the Lord, but Jeff knew and God knew. And I can tell you this, that that was the last time Jeff was in his right mind for a decent period of time. I'm so thankful we shared that moment together. Before I let my siblings sing, I've got two more stories I want to tell y'all. The first one happened last Saturday. The family went to the funeral home here, and we were doing a consult with Jerry. Near the end, we walked into the room to pick out a casket. And immediately, everyone knew and felt that was the one, the barnwood. Every one of Jeff's sons, every one of them, they said, we're going with the wood. Dad would gripe about the paint and buff job on all those metal caskets. To the end, those Bradshaw staying true for him. In December of 1999, I schemed up a plan to take Heidi to Justice Jewelers in Springfield, buy a ring, drive home to an undisclosed location, and ask her to marry me. We were officially engaged. Our drive back from Springfield, it rained so hard all the way home, and it continued to rain through the night. After putting the ring on her hand, we drove down to YY to share the news with Jeff and Lonnie. Well, they weren't home. So we waited a while, and eventually they showed up. RA had a basketball game that night in Hartville, and Jeff and Lonnie went to watch them play. They had to take their time driving home due to the heavy rains. So they walked in the house, and Leonie immediately spotted the jewelry bag on the kitchen table. And she just became giddy with excitement. So they both sit down, and I kind of swallowed hard and said, well, I asked Heidi to marry me tonight, and I came home, and I came down here to ask for your blessing. Silence. Prolonged silence. So Lonnie started a conversation. She started talking about how beautiful the ring was and how she was so happy for both of us. Then, silence again. I'm talking lots of awkward silence. Lonnie finally looked at her husband and said, dear, you have to say something. Jeff just sit there for 5 or 6 seconds, and he finally said, well, it's raining hard in Hartville. I'm telling you, that's all he said. No follow-up. No, I'm just kidding you, John. You can marry her. Nothing. He just said, it's raining hard in Hartville. I got home later that night and shared the story with my parents and my siblings, and I have never seen my dad laugh so hard when I told him what Jeff said. In fact, when my family hears the story today, they just laugh hysterically. Fast forward more than 25 years. On the very day Jeff died, we all said our goodbyes. Connie told us we're going to Colton's to eat. That was Jeff's favorite place, but only by default because Western Sizzler is no longer open. We all drove down the YY highway and kind of just started to detox a bit. It got dark, and all of a sudden the thunder started rolling, and it began to rain very hard. It was only a few minutes later, 9:15 p.m. to be exact, I checked, when I received a text from my sister Carrie, who lives in Hartville. The text had one simple phrase. Hey John, it's raining hard in Hartville.
I want to thank y'all for listening. Thank you for being here to honor Jeff. I want to end with a quote that my wife has been saying a lot since last Thursday. Dad, it's not goodbye. Just see you later.
I know your life on earth was trouble, and only you could know the pain. You weren't afraid to face the death. You were no stranger to the rain. So go rest high on that mountain. Son, your work on earth is done. Go to heaven, shout love for the Father and Son. How we cried the day you left us. We gathered round your grave. I wish I could see the angels' faces. They hear your sweet voice sing. So go rest high on that mountain. Son, your work on earth is done. Go to
in a small town down in Georgia over 40 years ago. Her maiden name was Music till she met that Jackson boy. They married young like folks did then, not a penny to their name. But they believed the one you vowed to love should always stay the same. And on the land his daddy gave him, a foundation underway for a love to last forever or until their dying days. They built a bond that's strong enough to stand the test of time, and a place for us to turn to when our lives were in a bind. And they made their house from a tool shed Granddaddy rolled down on too long. And they built walls all around it, and they made that house a home. And they taught us about good living, they taught us right from wrong. Lord, there'll never be another place in this world I'll call home. My mama raised 5 children, 4 girls and there was me. She found her strength with faith in God and a love of family. She never had a social life, home was all she knew, except the time she took a job to pay a bill or two. And my daddy skinned his knuckles on the cars that he repaired. He never earned much money, but he gave us all he had. He never made the front page, but he did the best he could. And folks drove their cars for miles around and let him look underneath the hood. And they made their house from a tool shed Granddaddy rolled down on too long. And they built walls all around it, and they made that house a home. They taught us about good living, they taught us right from wrong. Lord, there'll never be another place in this world I'll call home. There'll never be another place in this world that I'll call home. Remember when I was young and so were you, and time stood still, and love was all we knew. You were the first, so was I. We made love and then you cried. Remember when? Remember when we vowed the vows and walked the walk and gave our hearts, made the start and it was hard. We lived and learned life through curves. There was joy, there was hurt. Remember when? Remember when old ones died and new were born, and life was changed, disassembled, rearranged. We came together, fell apart, and broke each other's hearts. Remember when? sound of little feet was music. We danced to week, brought back the love. We found trust, vowed we'd never give it up. Remember when? Remember when? 30 seems so old now, looking back. It's just a stepping stone to where we are, where we've been. Said we'd do it all again. Remember when? Remember when? We said when we turned gray, when the children grow up and move away, we won't be sad, we'll be glad for all the life we've had. And we'll remember when. Remember